So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that.
He talks about how Madison Kelly didn't like the president, and they didn't think he deserved the job, or they didn't think he was worthy of the job, and they went out of his way to make sure a lot of the things they asked him to do that they didn't like never got done. And then he obviously has frustration, and I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do, knowing that's maybe not fully being cognizant of the third rail of German generals were Nazis and whatever.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Okay, I know the Olympics have passed, but folks, if this isn't worthy of a gold medal in verbal gymnastics, then I don't know what is. It's been a day to forget for the Trump campaign after a bombshell report from The Atlantic documented two separate sources claiming that Trump said, quote, "I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, people who were totally loyal to him, that follow orders." John Kelly, the retired US Marine Corps general who served as Trump's White House chief of staff from 2017 to 2019, confirmed to the magazine that he quizzed Trump when he asked, "Why can't you be like the German generals?" Responding, "Surely you can't mean Hitler's generals," saying that Trump said, yeah, Hitler's generals.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within.
But not to worry for Trump. Rushing to his defense was Fox and Friends co-host Brian Kilmeade after bombshell claims that Trump would rule like a dictator if re-elected. Kilmeade said that he could see how the Republican nominee for president would have expressed frustration with former military officers who served during his administration, before going on to completely excuse Trump's irritation by noting that he was used to essentially being a dictator at his empire of companies before taking office, ordering yes men around with little to no pushback, because that's exactly the type of person you want running the country, right?
But the bottom line is, if you read H.R. McMaster's book, who is critical of President Trump in some of it and not in others, he talks about how Madison Kelly didn't like the president, and they didn't think he deserved the job, or they didn't think he was worthy of the job, and they went out of his way to make sure a lot of the things they asked him to do that they didn't like never got done. McMaster would be frustrated because he couldn't get their attention, and he would say, "It's not your job to rein in the president. It's your job to do what the president wants." And then you factor in the fact that he runs his own company, coming from the business world, the first one we've ever had. It's not even a public company. And then he obviously has frustration. And I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do, knowing that's maybe not fully being cognizant of the third rail of German generals were Nazis and whatever. But he was frustrated with the slowdown of
it wasn't just a slowdown. It was insubordination. And there is a culture within Washington, not just when it comes to the generals, who, by the way, should be fired after what happened in Afghanistan, of insubordination in the sense that the bureaucrats run the government. The founders did not design this country to be that way. Unelected people don't get to run the country, even if you have 4 stars behind your name. And I think they were very frustrated that you had this outside guy that says, listen, I'm in charge now.
Well, shortly after the Atlantic's report, Kelly told the New York Times that Trump wanted to emulate his far-right heroes.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist, life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reason. And, but he would occasionally say that.
What would he say when you would lay that out to him?
He just, that would be the end of the conversation usually.
And listen, at this point, if you can't convince people that Trump has an affliction for fascists, then you never will. But for those undecided voters, listen to what those closest to Trump had to say. It's not like Kelly's comments were out of left field. I mean, do we need to journey back through all of the comments made about Trump from his former aides and appointees? Do you have a spare 5 minutes? Because I'm not going anywhere.
And John, Carl and John, let's go back to those comments from retired General John Kelly. One of the things you've reported in your books, I reported in my book as well, we've seen it again today. Some of the most damning critiques of Donald Trump's character and competence come from those who serve in these top national security positions.
I'll go further than that, George. The most damning critiques of Donald Trump and the most dire warnings about what it would mean if he came back into the White House came from people who served him closest in his administration in the most sensitive and important positions. Let me just go through a few of them. I've written them down so that I don't leave any out, but I'm going to leave some out because there are a lot. Obviously, there's his former vice president. There's Rex Tillerson, who was his Secretary of State. Bill Barr, who was Attorney General. John Kelly, Mark Milley, Mark Esper, who was his defense secretary. Jim Mattis, who was his earlier defense secretary. Dan Coates, who was in charge of the national intelligence. All of these people have come out to issue dire warnings about Donald Trump. And George, I have to say, it's not just the people that have come out publicly. A lot of others, and you can see them in that they are not endorsing Trump, but they're not speaking publicly. They're worried about the feedback. Let me just read you something that an anonymous, very top official who spent every day time with Donald Trump, served more than a year's administration, told me about Donald Trump. Trump lacks any shred of human decency, humility, or caring. He is a traitor and a malignancy in our nation and represents a clear and present danger to our democracy and rule of law. Again, that is somebody who, just like John Kelly, who was with Trump every day for more than a year in the White House.
Traitor. Let's put that graphic back up there because I want to make a point here. When you see that graphic of all the people who surrounded Donald Trump, these are the people that were in the Situation Room during the times of crisis. If Donald Trump is elected again, none of those people will be there.
Well, I've spoken to Trump many times about some of these people that have crossed him, and I asked him what his next administration would be like. What he's told me is he didn't know anybody. He had to rely on advice to hire people last time. Now he knows people. He will put people in who are loyal to him. He will put people in that will carry out his orders.
The guardrails will be gone.
And I'm always looking for an excuse to run back this clip of these remarks being read aloud to him on Fox News.
In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people. Your Vice President, Mike Pence, is running against you. Yeah. Your Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, she's running against you. Your former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said he's not supporting you. You mentioned National Security Advisor John Bolton. He's not supporting you either. You mentioned Attorney General Bill Barr, says you shouldn't be president again, calls you the consummate narcissist and troubled man. You recently called Barr a gutless pig. Your second defense secretary is not supporting you, called you irresponsible. This week, you and your White House called your White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, weak and ineffective and born with a very small brain. You called your acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, a born loser. You called your first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, dumb as a rock, and your first Defense Secretary, James Mattis, the world's most overrated general. You called your White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh Kennedy, milquetoast, and multiple times you've referred to your Transportation Secretary, Elaine Chao, as Mitch McConnell's China-loving wife. So, why did you hire all of them in the first place?
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.